Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakareshu Sarvada Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Swaminarayan Namaha. Shri Sajananda Swami Maharajaya Namaha. Shri Hari Krishna Maharajaya Namaha. Shri Ghansham Maharajaya Namaha. Shri Lakshmi Narayana Namaha. Shri Narnarayana Namaha. Shri Sadgurubhyo Namo Namaha. Om Shri Hanumate Namaha. Welcome to swaminarayanspirituality.com. This is Sachin. I want to first offer my Danvat Pranam to all the great sages, past, present, future, and to the Supreme Paramatma residing everywhere and in the heart of all. With that prarthana, we are continuing our exploration and exposition on Garuda Pratham number 1, Vachanamrut. And in connection to Garuda Pratham number 1, additional references and ideas that are expressed by Maharaj in terms of spiritual awakening, spiritual realization. We have been looking at the first Vachanamrut and specifically the entire concept of Akhanda Vritti. So last time we looked at the connection between Akhanda Vritti and then what occurs when Akhanda Vritti is established. Akhanda Vritti is the end point. End point in the sense there is no more sadhana after that. Sadhana we are doing through our senses, through our mind, through our indriyas, through our buddhi, through our intellect. This is all done to reach that stage where in the 24 hours, every moment, there is a connection, an unbroken connection with Bhagwan. In some form or another, the connection is not broken, even while performing all actions in the world. We are performing various actions, but it is possible to keep the connection alive. Right? So, for example, let's look at some examples of this. We are eating food. Generally, what happens? We are eating food and we are absorbed in the taste. Yes, we experience this taste, no doubt about that. But what Maharaj is saying is to connect another vritti, another aspect of the mind with manan chintan. So one could be contemplating on spiritual talks, different ideas connected to Paramatma, the spiritual wisdom of the scriptures. One can contemplate on the spiritual ideas and the teachings of the scriptures or the charitra, the various charitra, the lila charitra of the incarnations while eating the food. So the rasa, yes, you experience the rasa of the food, but the mind is not trapped in the rasa of the food and no karma is built by that rasa. Now see this point very clearly because this comes up again and again. If you're talking about Akhanda Vritti, how is it that this can be done 24 hours a day while eating food, while taking a bath, while you are studying some other material, while you're performing a job somewhere, while you are meeting with family and friends, and or while you're sleeping? How can it be done? Right? How is this possible in the 24 hours of each day? It is possible. It is the highest of spiritual sadhanas. That's what Maharaj is saying, that there isn't anything greater than these spiritual sadhanas. So the point here is that Akhanda Vritti is a state of highest spiritual evolution. Last time when we talked about this, we talked about what happens when there is Akhanda Vritti. And Maharaj is saying that when Akhanda Vritti is continuously there, then one has crossed Maya. God has lifted the veil of Maya by grace, by Krupa. This is the perspective specifically in the Bhakti traditions. God lifts the veil of Maya, right? And so when Bhagwan lifts the veil of Maya, then if the Bhakta wants to see the Jivatma, infinite Jivatma, the Bhakta, by the grace of and Krupa of God, grants divine vision, and the Bhakta can just sit in dhyan for a few minutes, few seconds, or there's no factor of time really, and can see infinite number of Jivatma and what they're doing and what their karmas are, and all that kind of stuff. That is the Bhagwan ki drishti hai. Bhagwan ka kuch power hai wo. God's certain power is that. Certain one tiny power. God has infinite power. There's a statement made by Maharaj that Bhagwan Purushottam doesn't know how great Bhagwan Purushottam is. Maharaj said that murti that is in Akshardham, it cannot reach its own endpoint because there is no endpoint. This end and beginning is all within the realm of time. This is all beyond time. So this thing that he's talking about, where the bhakta is remaining in akhanda vritti, in the murti of Bhagwan, Bhagwan ni murti ne vishay jena manni akhanda vritti rahe che. Rahe che means it's remaining there. The sadhanas have ended. It is there. You're there. That's it. Then the Jeev, Ishwar, Maya, Brahma can all be perceived. If there is such an ichha. So again, this word ichha that is used here, this should not be understood as how it is understood in terms of vasanas, our usual vasanas. It's not like that. This is a very transcendental stage where the bhakta is out of the clutches of the three gunas of Maya. The sattva-gun, rajogun, tamogun. The whole Bhagavad Gita is drank and digested in this. A to Z. Then akhanda vritti is siddha. The whole Bhagavatam is digested. Every scripture is digested in this. Akhanda vritti has everything in there. It is where the vrittis of the antakarana and then of the senses and the indriyas are in connection with Paramatma because of continuous mahima, divya glory, divine, the glory of God. And it remains there again and again while doing the work of the sansar. The sansar doesn't hold any influence over the individual. It doesn't hold any kind of force on the individual. Whatever is occurring in the bhakta's life, in a pure bhakta of this type, is occurring only and only and only by the will of Bhagwan. Nobody else has any control, purview, or any influence over that bhakta's life other than God. Even if there troubles come, problems come, good things come, praises come, blames come, anything that comes, that is given by Paramatma only and nobody else. This is the point here. So, in this Vachanamrut, again, I just want to really emphasize, Vachanamrut is Paravani. Paravani spoken in Gujarati, it is an extract of 10 years of span. And the concepts that are here, we are trying to understand them. But from that understanding, if we are interested in our own evolution towards Brahmi Sthiti means the state of the Brahman, that I am the Brahman. I am that infinite Akshara Brahma and with form also. I want to realize that and be out of the clutches of the sansar. Then Vachanamrut is for us, definitely. It is showing sadhana. And the sadhana is very, very clear. Now, in every action we do, how can this vritti be connected? So I mentioned about this last time in a little different way, about the mahima, like if you have $1 billion check, you'll never forget that. We talked about that before. Now, there's more to be said about this. Vritti means the internal mechanism of the antakarana that is flowing with thoughts and emotions, right? Through the memories and by the force of desire. So we've talked about this before in other places, this thought, emotion, memory, desire, energy. This is common, this is universal. So the word vritti has all 5 of these. It has our cognition, that is thinking. We have tremendous brain power, thinking power. What do we think about mostly? We think about the objects of the world and the pleasure and the enjoyment of the objects of this world. That is called Jagat Sambandhi Vritti. Right? These are the foundational ideas that need to be clear before we get to things like Atmanishta Rupe Vartvu, this Ahmedabad number 3 Vachanamrut. I spoke to somebody about this yesterday in some detail. Those are just further expansions on this point only of connecting with Bhagavan. But they are more intricate ways of explaining this Akhanda Vritti. So, thoughts meaning cognition. Do we have cognition? How is this described in Vachanamrut and in the Vedanta? The word is buddhi. Buddhi meaning intelligence. Right? A buddhi has 4 functions. That also comes in Vachanamrut Garada number 12. In fact, it's shown right over here. Tattvana Lakshannu Tatha Utpattinu. That's the name of the Vachanamrut. Garada Pratham number 12 Vachanamrut, where Maharaj has identified 4 functions of the buddhi. So that is Sanshay, Nishay, Smruti, Nidra. 4 functions of the intellect. Let's look at each one of these and we'll understand this now in a little bit more in depth to understand the word vritti. So the vritti has this word cognition, intelligence inside. Sanshay, Nishay means what? Doubt. The intelligence can doubt and question, and it can also come to conclusions. Nishay, that it is so. For example, a person goes through spiritual study in any tradition of the world and comes to a conviction that God exists, a theistic conviction. This is called Nishay. And this word Nishay comes again and again in Vachanamrut. But there's certain places where it doesn't come. We'll talk about that also. But Nishay means conviction. In all of the religious traditions of the world, there are individuals who have come upon or come to this conviction through study, contemplation, reflection, listening to the talks. They are convinced that God is present. They are convinced that the Atma is present. They are convinced that there is liberation from this sansar. They are convinced that the cycle of birth and death exists. All of those things are called convictions. Now the conviction that is called Nishay, it doesn't necessarily have to be in alignment with the actual truth. One could be convinced that the Atma doesn't exist. That doesn't mean that the Atma doesn't exist. And one could be convinced that the Atma exists, and that doesn't mean that the Atma exists. See this point. Conviction is called Nishay. It's one of the 4 functions of the buddhi. And buddhi is one of the 4 parts, one of the 4 functions of the antakarana. Antakarana meaning inner instrument. That is man, buddhi, chit, ahankar. So the word vritti is referring to the way in my mind and in my research that I've done, I like to put it in these 5 ways: thoughts, emotions, memories, desire, energy. It's a little modern way of putting it, but it actually refers to the antakarana, that is man, buddhi, chit, ahankar, and the energy within that. So the vritti of the buddhi, where the buddhi may start with sanshay, doubts. Oh, I'm not sure. Is there Atma? I don't know what is God. I don't know this. I don't know that. Lots of doubts. Through santa samagam, satsang, through the process of satsang and samagam and listening to the talks of the sages and talks of the spiritual ideas, the buddhi gets to a state of conviction. Yes, there could be something really like the Atma. There really could be something like God. There could be many realities beyond what we are seeing through the senses. This is a type of conviction. In philosophy, more technically, we can call it an epistemological and ontological conviction. Many of the arguments for the existence of God in theistic religions come from these types of convictions. So this conviction that is called nishta, nishay, and then nishta is conviction. That conviction is needed to do sadhana. Otherwise, one would not be able to do any sadhana. Sadhana means practices, psycho-spiritual, through the senses, body, mind, etc. Practices that are done to connect with Paramatma, with Bhagwan. That is called sadhana. So sadhana can really be done or is done, meaning the individual is doing sadhana, when there is nishay, when the development of nishay occurs. Nishay means it is so, that Bhagavan is there, that God is present. And the individual, the sadhaka, is doing sadhana to realize the spiritual entities, is wanting moksha, is wanting mukti. But if there is doubt, that is called sanshay in the intellect, in the buddhi. If there is doubt, then sadhana will never reach akhanda vritti. Impossible. Now there's a big problem here. Are we talking about blind faith? Is that so? There are those who believe if you're going to believe in God and do all of these things, you have to put your buddhi on the side and just follow blindly whatever the gurus or somebody's telling you, and that's it. And then maybe you'll reach whatever you're going to reach. Is that what we're talking about? No, absolutely not. It is not blind faith. Now, the problem with sanshay and nishay, you could have convictions either way. In so many ways, so many convictions are there. Look at the religions of the world today. Most people in their particular religious tradition believe that they are right and probably somebody else is not as right, or somebody else is wrong, or whatever. All of that debate that goes on, this is all intellectual debate, intellectual analysis and back and forth. Maybe there is some experience behind it, but a lot of it is just coming from the intellect, that my conviction, through my conviction, I believe what is to be true, and then from that, I am debating with you and with others, so trying to convince you to bring you into my way of thinking, and that's it. Those are all intellectual phenomena, meaning intellect phenomena of the intellect. In the time of Sajanand Swami Maharaj, this was called Shastrarth. This kind of intellectual back and forth. Is that what we're talking about in terms of this word vritti? It's very interesting. See, intellectual conviction is a doorway for experimentation. It is not a solidification of the mind to the point where it is stagnated, and one is then accepting the conviction as reality and then living in this world as if one has realized the truth because one has the conviction. That is not the case. And in this first paragraph only, Maharaj has solved that problem directly by stating that if and when akhanda vritti is joined towards Bhagavan na Swarup, towards the Swarup of Paramatma, as we talked about in some detail many times. And what is the experimental and experiential proof? The bhakta just has to have just a thought, just a ichha comes. Oh, what is the Atma like? Immediately the reality opens up and it's available for spiritual experience. Adhyatmik anubhav. This word experience is not the right word. The word experience refers to the senses. Even when we say spiritual experience, we're using that word experience in a different way. The word is in Sanskrit, we say adhyatmik anubhav. Shankaracharya ji has talked about it even more technically by saying aparoksha anubhuti. So vritti is where conviction is an intermediate stage for experimenting with sadhana. And in that experimentation, in that live connection, live wire connection, the internal energy structure of the mind, of the chakras, of the brain, of the whole energy gets more and more and more refined. That energy refinement allows for, what does that energy refinement do? It opens a door by grace, we can say, but what that grace is beyond our understanding. It opens a crack outside the conditioned mind. That opening of the crack outside the conditioned mind, that is what Maharaj is saying here when he is using this expression, Bhagwan ni murti ne vishe jena man ni vritti akhand rahe che. Up to that point, that's that partial sentence there is a state where the vritti is just remaining through nishtha and conviction in the form, in the swarup of Paramatma, by extraordinary faith, where all of the doubts have disappeared. There's no doubt left. That went by the wayside long time back. That was gone long time back. Then the vritti is continuously there, akhanda. Now, in that, as soon as the vritti approaches akhanda, and we have not fully even described the word vritti yet, but we're just talking just in terms of the nishay part. That when the vritti remains fixed and the conviction comes that this is Paramatma, like the gopis just by seeing Krishna said this is God, and they could not forget him. Even if they wanted to, they couldn't forget him. It's like that. The Paramahansas of Maharaj couldn't forget him for 1 second, and we find this in other places also. So the vritti, once it approaches an unbroken connection, now the buddhi, that is in the intelligence, the intellect, that has this conviction, but now the buddhi, now the individual is given the opening, that crack outside the mental framework into the Jivatma. What is the Atma Tattva? That it's a crack, it opens like a flash. Oh, I am this. This is an actual anubhav, aparoksha anubhuti. The whole Vivek Chudamani is about this point. It's about the realization of the Atma. So, the bhakta has a desire to see what is Jeev. Not see through the eyes, but experientially from inside. Anubhav. Maharaj said, instantaneously, tatkal, without the factor of time, full Atma Darshan is present. Now, this is the experiential answer to the questions of doubt versus blind faith versus all that thing disappears. You don't need to have blind faith. See, it's like this. If an individual is seeing the sun with his or her own eyes, you don't have to have faith that the sun exists. You're beyond faith into experience that it's there. Faith is for those people whose eyes are closed and they remain closed, and that is called Shraddha. Shraddha is not Anubhav. Bhagavad Gita is very clear. Sri Krishna Bhagavan. Shraddhavan labate jnanam Shraddhavan labate jnanam tatparaha sanyate indriyaha. Jnanam labdva param shantim achirenadi gachati. How clear. Shraddha means this faith, conviction, that internal sense that yes, this is that Bhagwan is there, God is in front of me, God is with me. The bhakta has a devotional connection with Bhagwan, the Ishtadevata. That Shraddha is a doorway into Jnana. See, but that is what the Gita is saying. Shraddhavan means one who is having or is holding the quality of Shraddha, which is an intellectual, it is a mental quality. So one who is holding and is living inside that dimension of Shraddha, which we can loosely translate as faith. One who is living in that dimension by connecting the mind with Paramatma through bhajan, kirtan, manan, chintan, and getting the emotions, which is bhavana, bhav, connected with Paramatma, that is called bhakti bhav, dasatva bhav, atmanishta bhav. That is all discussed in Vachanamrut. But we have to go very, very, very carefully. There are many ways, many bhavas through which we can connect with Paramatma, with Bhagwan. Whichever bhav it is, which is the predominant bhav, then even Maharaj just talked about anga, whichever is your predominant way of connecting. That could be Jnana, that could be Bhakti, that could be Seva, that could be Guru Nishtha, that could be Mantra Sadhana, that could be so many things. Navda Bhakti, that could be Ashtang Yoga. It can be thousands of different approaches. Whichever way, that is called Anga. Anga means one's natural way of going towards God. That even one has to recognize that before all this Akhanda Vritti can happen. So, Shraddha, Nishtha, faith are a gateway for the vritti to get absorbed in Paramatma. And when that vritti is unbroken, something which we would say very, very transcendental, mystical, and highly, highly esoteric, highly non-verbal, we cannot describe, occurs. And that is what we can use the word krupa, loosely translated as grace. These translations are not really all that accurate. They're okay. They're so-so. Somebody said, well, what is the difference between krupa and grace? I won't go into that right now. But it is something very, very special that occurs where Bhagwan anugraha karte hai. Anugraha means special favor. That on the bhakta, because there is so much closeness with Paramatma, if the devotee desires that I want to see, that the ichcha comes. Maharaj used the word ichcha. That's the desire part. Thought, emotion, memory, desire. That the desire, just slightest desire pops up. And then maybe the thought might even come in there that what is this Jivatma like? Maharaj said tatkal dekhe. See this language here in Gujarati. Tatkal dekhe. Tatkal means beyond, in the present. There's no delay. This word here, dekhe, this is a state beyond faith, beyond nishtha, beyond belief, beyond conviction. This is the realization of the tattva itself, that is the Jeev tattva, Atma tattva. So this realization is non-verbal. One cannot ever adequately describe. The words cannot touch this. Whatever language is being used here in this Vachanamrut, Maharaj spoke at that time in Garada. At night time he's woken up and he's speaking this. He's speaking from direct realization. See this point. The realization is his realization. He's not speaking this as just a regurgitation of scriptures. Yes, he has studied the scriptures from childhood. Yes, he continues to listen to all the scriptures also. So when he is speaking, what he is speaking is from his own realization that is matching what is in the scriptures. And not only is it matching, it is the quintessence, saransh, the essence that is needed. It's like that rose essence. We can buy those little bottles, jasmine essence, rose essence, like that. You can get them in different stores. That is the essence of the flower. Just the scent is there. And that's what you're looking for. Other things that the flower has, of course. But what is the quintessence? The essence, we say rose essence. It's that liquid that has been extracted, purified, and only the essence is left. This Vachanamrut is nothing but the essence of the scriptures. But it's not just an extraction done through the intellect. It's not just that. That part is there also, but it's not just that. It is Shriji Maharaj speaking from his own state. And he has said this in Gujarati, Anirdesh. And this website we're looking at is also anirdesh.com. Very interesting. Anirdesh means without boundary. That is Akshara Brahma. Bhagwan ka dham kaisa hai? There's no boundary in that. All the mental boundaries, those things are long behind, but there's all the other boundaries of the Ishwaras, which is what I wanted to talk about today, but I somehow in my mind, all this is coming up today. We'll get to what is the Ishwar and all that later on sometime. This is very, very divine, divya. It is for those who are wanting to completely get out of the entanglements of Maya. Many times people say they want to get out of Maya. But do we really want to get out of Maya? If we want to get out of Maya and to actually experience, have the anubhav of the adhyatmic Vedantic tattvas, actual, not just conceptual. If we want that, this is the solution. This is how to do this. Akhanda vritti. But you will notice the problems associated with trying to do akhanda vritti are innumerable. Akhanda vritti koi khel nahi hai. It is the most intractable of sadhanas. It is the one and highest sadhana. And if one comes even close to that, all kinds of extraordinary truths are revealed. There are extraordinary dimensions of reality that open up. That's if you're getting close to akhanda vritti. Vritti is broken again and again and again. everything that breaks that connection, where we forget Paramatma, when the link with Bhagwan is broken, when that link is broken and only the worldly experiences inside the mind, that is the cause of rebirth upon rebirth upon rebirth upon rebirth. And when the link is established and unbroken, that means there is no ajnan, ignorance is gone, 100% vairagya is there, and there is adhyatmik anubhav, Bhagwan ka anubhav. And when that anubhav begins to open, the sadhak, the bhakta, makes sure that it is not lost. Not lost under any circumstances. See, this is why this word chintamani is used. Maharaj is saying, Bhagwan ni murti che, te to chintamani tulya che. Why this word chintamani? He's using that as an analogy. If everything is lost in this world for us, and if we have chintamani is that metaphysical rock, that if you hold that and anything you wish, it happens right away. It is, by the way, this is not a mythological rock. It is a metaphysical element, tattva. And that's another long discussion, what that is exactly. And where it exists inside the Swargalokas and all that. This is not some imaginary thing, this Chintamani and all. It's actually there. But that requires, that opening to see that. And then you would know that is the case. Such things are there. There are trees of Chintamani in the higher lokas. So Maharaj is saying here that Bhagwan ni murti che te to chintamani tulya che. He's using this analogy specifically because if you have a chintamani, just assume for a moment you have a beautiful rock. It may not be very beautiful looking, but it is a chintamani. And you don't know that it is, then you're in trouble. But if you know that it's a chintamani, and if you hold it in your hand and you can manifest anything you want to manifest, immediately it will manifest. Now, compare this. Compare two individuals. One person has everything that they can possibly want in this world, but doesn't have the Chintamani rock. And the other person has the Chintamani rock and doesn't have anything. Everything is gone. Which one is greater? The one who is holding the Chintamani rock is infinitely greater in terms of the fact that who is poor and who is wealthy. The person who has everything will exhaust everything within some time. The person who has nothing but the Chintamani rock, all he has to do is hold the rock and wish this should happen and that should, and it happens right away. Which one is greater? This is why Maharaj is using this word Chintamani. Because he's using that analogy to encourage the devotees, the bhaktas, not to lose the link with Paramatma under any circumstances. If the person who has a Chintamani in the home and they forget that they have the Chintamani for one day, then they start roaming around in this sansar, looking for this, working here, doing this, doing that. Now they come into a completely bound, poor state. Oh, I don't have anything. I don't have this. Let me find a $30,000 per year job so I can survive, so I can do this. But hold on, you have a Chintamani in your own home. You don't know that it's there. And if you forget that it's there, you immediately wind up in the forest of the sansar. To not wind up in the jungle, in the forest, in the infinite bondage of the sansar. ये भगवान की करुणा है, that this Vachanamrut is spoken. कितनी करुणा, we cannot imagine even. And from this karuna, what is he asking? He's telling directly, keep the vritti connected with Bhagwan. And the more it is connected, the better off we're going to be. Akhanda vritti is the end, it's the highest of the highest of the high. And in that state, what is the life of such a person? Very simple life. Minimalist. Even the amount of food that is eaten and all. Not because of suppression and because of fighting with the Vishayas and all that. No. It is because the energies have taken a dimensional jump and have been purified to such an extent one is not begging behind these Panch Vishayas of this world. This is the Garada Madhya number 12 Vachanamrut Rajnitinu. Who is a beggar and who is the king? That is the difference. The word vritti has extraordinary shakti. That shakti is more and more and more refined, and the experience of bhakti comes. And bhakti is a very, very, very purified experience. Again, this word experience is just, it doesn't sit well with me, to tell you the truth. Bhakti is a purified, internal rasa, R-A-S-A. Rasa is the right word. That ras is the key, bhakti ras. We can use the word experience, no doubt. But it has to do with divine enjoyment. Divya bhoga. The word is bhog. But which kind of bhog? Divya bhog. That divya bhog is so intense. Even a drop of that, once we get that, we don't want to ever let it go. And the desire comes up for more of that. Like Mirabai, like Premanand Swami, like Tulsidas Ji. They don't want to come out of it. They're not. In fact, not only do they not want to come out of it, they are eventually incapable of coming out of it. ऐसी अलौकिक स्थिति है. When bhakti ras opens, inside that ras, which is coming through the mind, senses, etc., that crack opens by krupa, by grace. That crack opens into the spiritual dimension. This is called adhyatmik anubhav. And when those cracks open, this is all described in Vachanamrut. In many, many, many places, how those cracks open, what happens when they open, what are the states, intermediate states, everything is explained in here. And then the actual Atmadarshan, and then of course, to live with all of that heightened realization in the world with the ordinary people in the world. With grace, with compassion, with seva, with wishing well for all. साधुता, हम जो बोलते हैं ना साधुता, संत के गुण, अखंड वृत्ति में अनंत संत के गुण है. Every saintly quality, Saint is not by clothes or by tilaks or by hairstyle or by skin color, or none of that has anything to do with saintliness. Those are all sadhanas only. That's okay, they have their place. Saintliness, sadhuta, that is naturally present in akhanda vritti. In fact, we could say this, that in akhanda vritti, purana sadhuta, meaning 100% saintliness is naturally there. In fact, it is only a side effect of akhanda vritti. It is just one aspect of akhanda vritti. But if that is not there, akhanda vritti is not there. And if there is a deficiency in saintliness, akhanda vritti is not there. Then there is dehabhav. There is all of the trash that is usually within the mind of human consciousness. Those things are there. And what is humanity getting from that? Pain and suffering, that's all, nothing else. And the disease of birth and death. Gunatitanand Swami said, Janam Maran ka chakkar, this life and death is a disease. The disease of life and death, and the cure is this Brahma Vidya. So these are some thoughts for now. We'll take a little break here. Let me hit pause here.